All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And man, I will tell you that the internet has been on fire since yesterday in regards to DC stuff and the information that has come out in regards to James Gunn's universe, the release of the Batfleck figure from Batman vs. Superman, and just the direction that everything is going. And we're going to look at some crazy stuff today. Now, I have to first laugh and give you guys some pretty funny information here. So, in my last video, I talked about how the Batfleck figure had sold out within minutes, and it did. And you would not believe the goofy responses I got from people as to why it sold out so fast. It had nothing to do with the popularity of Ben Affleck as Batman. It had nothing to do with the popularity of Batman vs. Superman. It's because the DCEU is ending, and everybody wants to get their hands on anything connected to the DCEU. Okay, well, thanks for proving my point that it was popular. The second excuse was Batman always sells. Of course people are going to pick up that figure. Batman always sells. Yeah, that's true, but not within 2 minutes it doesn't. Not unless it's a multi-pack or something special with a Batmobile. The third excuse I got was that it's a cool-looking figure. Had nothing to do with the fact that it's Ben Affleck. It had nothing to do with Batman vs. Superman. These were all the people spinning all these excuses as to why that figure was selling. People do not realize that there's a very small group of people out there that think because they didn't like these versions of the characters, that everybody doesn't like these versions of the characters. But I will tell you, the general audience like these versions of the characters, as the ticket sales prove. And the fans of regular fans of DC also like these characters. There's a very small minority of people, because they didn't show up for the stuff when they changed the formula and claim to be real DC fans, that are out there, and they can be pretty loud. And so you have to sift through all that noise. And it's pretty funny to watch all the people melt down because this figure sold well. Now, when I posted my last video, I also posted it on Twitter and said, let's see how many people I could piss off today. Now, I obviously did not make that video to piss people off, but people took it as, oh, now he's purposefully trying to piss people off. That wasn't the purpose of that video, but thanks for proving my point that anything that I post on there is going to piss people off. So it's really hilarious to see all these people melt down around us when something successful happens with the DCEU. Now, I also had some people ask, because of this A-listers thing, and let me explain the A-listers thing, and I do have some stuff to show you guys today, so we are going to look for some stuff, but some people asked me what A-listers actually is. It's something called the A-list community. I was invited to join, I don't remember how many years ago. It was a long, long time ago. And I think I had a Warner Brothers account to begin with because I would always, put in my codes for my movies. I'm a physical media person. And I think I had a Warner Brothers account, and they invited me to be part of the Warner Brothers A-lister community. At the time it was called A-listers. Now it's just the A-list community. And what we get to do is we get to see things before they get released. Sometimes we get to vote on covers. We get to vote. I've actually been able to see the first couple episodes of shows before they ever got released. I couldn't talk about them, but I was able to see them to give my thoughts on them. We get surveys all the time, but up until the other day, most of the surveys were kind of just general weird things, but they got wildly specific the other day, and I still can't get into why. It's been a community, and there's like a board, but I don't really get on the board much. I don't log in. And what they do is they ask us every week which movies we've seen out of all of the new releases. That's the biggest thing, is I'll get a survey every single like I got one yesterday. So it's every Friday, we'll get it for the previous weekend. And they ask you, of all the movies released, do you even know what this movie is? And they'll ask if we saw it and if we plan on purchasing it and how we plan on purchasing it, stuff like that. I can't get into any more specifics other than that. It's just a fun little survey thing and interaction thing. And I was even part of a focus group one time where we were able to get in and talk about certain things. That was a lot of fun too. And they actually compensated me for that focus group. So people were asking me, because his Batfleck figure sold out within a few minutes because of this survey that's going out by Warner Brothers, and also this thing we're going to look at in a few minutes, is there a possibility that they may course correct? And I will tell you, yes, there is a real possibility that could happen. I think the writing is on the wall. I think they're starting to see that the interest simply is not there for the DCU. Now, I had a lot of people come in to my comments, and somebody tried to make a point, and I want to talk about how this point doesn't make any sense. They got on there and showed that this Captain Carrot figure, this rabbit figure, also sold out, and that must mean it's a global phenomenon. And somebody also commented that, well, there has to be a lot of interest in the DCU because as soon as he announced those movies, all those comic books sold. Okay, because that's something currently in development. That is in the now. Wait 8 years, come out and release figures for the films that James Gunn is going to release, or start talking about those films again, and let's see if those comic books still sell out. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. People are always going to eat up any merchandise that you release for the DCEU. All this stuff behind me, you cannot get anymore, or you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. There's a reason for that. There is a super high interest in the DCEU. So let's take a look at these photos that I grabbed since yesterday. There's been so much stuff going on here. So the first thing I have here is this picture that James Gunn posted, and someone asked, any idea who you want to be your cinematographer for Superman Legacy yet? He said it's Henry Braham. I don't know how you say his name, who I did Volume 3 in the Suicide Squad with. Just flew home from a trip scouting locations with him. Yeah, and that's kind of disappointing because I will tell you Volume 3 had the worst cinematography of, I think, the 3 films that they did. It looked cheap. It looked very cheap, and it just did not have a good look to it. And Suicide Squad had a better look to it, but that movie was just terrible to begin with. I don't know that that's a good move, but they probably got him for pretty cheap. More stuff about David Ayer Suicide Squad. It says the original Suicide Squad cut scared the shit out of executives. Probably because it was going to be more epic and it wasn't goofy and silly like what the studio was looking for. Here is another awesome CGI photo of Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck as Superman and Batman. I think I like the back-to-back photo more, but this one is also pretty cool, and people have been sending me some of this stuff, and I'm going to share the things that catch my eye, but unfortunately I can't share everything. Okay, here is the big news from yesterday, that according to the N. Snyder, who is part of, I believe it's Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. I believe he's with the Hollywood Reporter. Something like that. According to the N. Snyder, James Gunn's DCU is kind of a mess, like both Marvel and Star Wars. Yeah, I would say so, and when I'm done showing you these photos, I'm going to talk about what this means and what the optics look like from the outside in. Yeah, so here it is. Here's where this actually came from. It was a podcast with John Roca. I don't know if it's Rocha or Roca, but they said, here's a video clip straight from Hollywood Reporter Insider. Oh, he's a Hollywood Reporter Insider. Okay, so I got that wrong. Guys, I got that wrong. Sorry, he's not. He doesn't work for the Hollywood Reporter. I'm sorry. You guys can stop with the comments. I know you're hot typing on the keyboard already. So he is a Hollywood Reporter Insider. Jeff Snyder saying James Gunn's DCU is a mess according to what he had heard. He can backtrack it all he wants, but he directly said it with explanation. And you can actually go watch that video. It is available online. The Hot Mic with Jeff Snyder and John Roca. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. We'll talk about this when I'm done with these photos. Here's another really cool Batman, Ben Affleck CGI photo. That's one of the best right there. That actually looks real. That's pretty freaking cool. So again, I'll put these photos in that folder to share with everybody. So if you guys want a copy of these photos, you can grab them. You'll see that in the comments below. And then we got one more photo to look at here today. So this also caused a lot of interesting discussions yesterday. So what's Jesse Eisenberg's advice to the next person playing Lex Luthor? Don't watch me. I think that's freaking hilarious. Well, there's a reason, because his portrayal in Batman vs. Superman was very eccentric. It wasn't the normal version. But by the end of the film, and also the end of Justice League on the boat, he was fully Lex Luthor, but we don't get to see that version of Lex Luthor because the studio didn't continue with what they were doing. But by the time Batman had visited him, and that's one of my favorite Batman scenes too ever on film, is when he visits him in the jail cell and says he's getting sent to Arkham. Pretty freaking awesome. That was a very visceral, awesome Batman scene. So I lied. I have one more photo here to show you guys. And this has been adjusted for inflation. And I always talk about how popular movies are based on how many tickets they sell. The more people that go to these movies means you're going to sell more merchandise, means there's more interest in those properties. Now, the only thing that shouldn't really be on here, well, there's a couple. I don't think the Batman and the Joker should be on here because those are not DCU properties. But if you look at this, you can see that Aquaman, adjusted for inflation, would have made $1.3 billion. Joker comes in at $1.2 billion. And for everyone who says rated R movies don't sell, the Joker, the one thing that proves is if it's a good movie, people are going to go see it. Whereas the Suicide Squad, which was rated R at the very bottom, is $177 million. Batman vs. Superman would have grossed $1.05 billion if it was released today. And that was with bad word of mouth because it was a butchered version. Had the real version gotten released, that would be the number one film on this entire list. That's a fact. Wonder Woman, $9.75 million. The first Suicide Squad, $8.9 million. Man of Steel, which kicked it all off, and people were a little hesitant, but they still saw it, $824 million. I don't know if I'm saying $894 million, $975 million, whatever. It's first thing in the morning. I don't know what I'm doing here. Justice League, $771 million. And then you got the Batman at $752 million. Now, think about this. Think about this. This is the one thing I did want to point out. Look how far down the Batman is on this list, and this just came out a year and a half ago, guys. That should be way higher up on this list, but people were not excited to see a new Batman. Now, it did make the studio money because of the budget, but I'm strictly showing you this because of the interest, showing there was more interest in the DCU version of the theatrical version of Justice League than there was for the Batman. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. That's some serious stuff, and then you can see the other ones here on this list. And they don't even include the newest ones, which are way down on the list. It goes beyond that because the other ones were all worse. All the ones that got released this year go even further down that list, which is crazy. So ultimately, what does this all mean? It means the interest in the DCU is still there. The ticket sales prove it. The inflation numbers prove it. The merchandise sales prove it. People filling out these questionnaires prove it. The studio walked away. They had everything in their hands. And I also want to point out what's interesting here is you had Black Adam, which didn't get a China release, and you had Aquaman, which did. And Aquaman is very nearing the whole entire run of what Black Adam did theatrically worldwide. They're very close. There's a possibility Aquaman could overtake it this week. And that is with a China release, which Black Adam did not have. But what I want to point out, which is even more important, is people did come back for Aquaman 2. They did, and I didn't know what Aquaman 2 was going to do. And if you didn't have the Amber Heard issue, the movie could have made even more, showing you that the interest in those versions of these characters is still there. People didn't want to see everything get erased with The Flash. People didn't want to see Blue Beetle. People didn't want to go see Shazam 2. We wanted those meat and potatoes, which we still haven't gotten. And Superman Legacy doesn't look any better. Now let's talk about Superman Legacy here for a minute and what's going on with the DCU. So insiders are saying it looks like a mess. And the optics from the outside say, yes, it's a mess. Because you know what? They announced this big slate a little over a year ago. This massive slate of films, half of which nobody cares about those materials. And what ended up happening is, what is in production currently? Only the things that are being completely written by Gunn, directed by Gunn. It's all about the Gunn show. It's all about James Gunn. They have put all of their eggs in one basket. None of the other projects are in production. None of the other projects are in production. And if you wanted to kick off a universe, Creature Commandos is not going to do it. Peacemaker 2 is not going to do it. You are relying heavily on Superman Legacy and nothing else. Think about that. From the outside in, after a year, the fact that none of these other projects are off the ground yet shows you that the studio is worried. They are worried. They don't want to spend a lot of money by having him as a CEO. He's probably not getting paid extra to be the director and the writer. It all probably falls under his CEO, co-CEO responsibilities. Or they're getting him for very, very cheap. Guys, everything is not good down there. And as more information gets released, stick to my channel. I will be bringing it to you. But I'll tell you, if Superman Legacy ever does get released, and it's good, I will admit it. I'm not below that. So, I should say I'm not above telling you guys what I really think about a film. And if it's good, I'll admit it. But the optics from the outside in say no. It just doesn't look like it's going to be good. All right, guys, so there's my update for the day. I will have some more content coming out this weekend. I do appreciate all the support. We will see you on the next video.